Right, now I'm going to do something which is kind of one of my techniques that I've not really seen many other people do. There's all this stuff about phase in drumming. We've talked about that, and obviously that is when waveforms don't line up and you get this kind of crunchy thing. If you ever want to know what phase sounds like, just put a phaser on something. I won't really try and explain what that is now. Now, a lot of people do phase reversal on various things, and they'll sort of do this with overheads. What I'm going to do now, the problem, obviously, when you mic'd up the drums, which you would have realised, your kick drum and your snare drum, which are close mic'd, you've got the mic probably only about 6 inches away from the drum, or in the kick it's right hand side, but you know, about 6 inches away from the beater. When you had your overheads up, then obviously they were about 3 to 6 feet away from the drums. Now, just in simple physical terms, that means the mics are further away, so the sound's going to reach the mics later than the close mics. Now that, all you have to do really is zoom in a little bit. Snare drum is obviously the loudest part of a drum kit, yeah, as we've discussed before, and it's a good way. If you look at snare hit, I mean, look at this one for example. That's the start of the transient. You can see that on the snare mic, it happens a bit quicker than happens on the overheads there and there. Now, there's different ways that people try and sort this out. Some people don't do it at all because they just leave it as it is. Now, for me, this is a technique that I like to use, and I think it's a good one. All I'm going to do, instead of using phase reversal or anything, or inversion, I'm just going to select these tracks. I'm going to move into a snare hit, and I'm going to just grab them and move them. Now, you can never be completely sure exactly where something sits, but you just have to do it by kind of looking, really. Now, if I move that, don't know, that, if you look at that bit, it seems like the top of that bit is probably the same as this bit here. Or if you look at that, you can kind of follow this shape that goes down. So maybe it's more like this. These two don't seem to line up very much, actually, the two overheads. This suggests that maybe when this was recorded, they were slightly different distances from the snare. And so this is a good thing to look at, actually, for what I was saying about when it does around. So now, don't do it on just one hit. Move into a few different ones. The overviews on Logic are not great for accuracy, actually. So sometimes you just have to go with your best shot. And really, you should go by ear. Now, for me, looking at that more, it seems like this maybe should be about here or something. Right. So, like I say, this technique's a bit unusual, and not many people do it, and it's sort of cheating. But I do this every time now because I just think it sounds better. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. So, yeah, zoom into one, maybe zoom into 3. Let's go to one that's later on as well. Find a nice loud snare hit, that one, and maybe do it from not zoomed in very, very far for one thing, and then go a bit further in. Actually, usually where the 0 line crosses, like there, is a good indication of where things should be. Like I say, this isn't perfect. It looks a bit like this one's been recorded later. I'm not going to pull that in though, because that's just not a good idea. Right. Anyway, this is what it sounds like now. Now, what I'll do, I'm going to flick around with this. Let's hear this. This is our original, of course. It's going to a bit like this. Listen for the snare. So, you don't have to do that, but for me, the snare's jumping out a bit more there, and it just seems to make sense, really, that the snare hits happen at the same time, because it'll just sound a bit punchier. Anyway, that's what I would do second. So, yeah, that's kind of how to move the overheads and line them up a bit more with the snare. Okay.